Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We were considering that avidya in the form of asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha have forms, states which avidya doesn't have. So that's a distinctive factor between the parental avidya and the offspring, the generations of avidya. So the original avidya doesn't have all that, but the generations of avidya in the form of asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha have the stages or states. They are respectively prasupta, tanu, vichhinna, udara. So we were trying to understand these states of uttara kleshas. The prasupta means dormant, tanu means attenuated, enfeebled, weakened, vichhinna means alternated, and udara means actualized. So Vyasa describes the prasupta state, the dormant state of kleshas. See, certain tendencies of ours are dormant until the manifesting cause manifests in life. Like whether we are good natured or bad natured will only appear after a stage in life. It is not that by birth that we are good or bad. But as the baby comes to age, then certain tendencies of the child start manifesting, and then we realize the character of the child. But when the baby, that is the infant condition of the baby, we do not really identify all that. So there are dormant states for certain tendencies, and we have seen that avidya is a vasana. Avidya is a tendency, it is not a vritti. So, kleshas such as asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha will be possibly in a dormant state. So, dormant state means the kleshas are potentially existing in the chitta. Shakti Rupata, that is called Shakti Rupata, or potentially existing in the chitta, or they are in seed form. So, in the seed form, we see all botanical plants in seed form are indistinguishable. You can't distinguish between which seed is of what flower or fruit or plant. The seed forms are all identical and similar. We don't see the differences. So when the tendencies are in seed form, that is called prasupti. And then it has to be noted here that avidya doesn't have this prasupti. The first and the foremost of the kleshas, the parental klesha, which is avidya, doesn't have a state such as sushupti. However, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha will have sushupti. And then, what is, if this is prasupti, what is jagranam? What is awakened state of kleshas? So Vyasa explains that when the objects or the stimuli come at sight, then the mind starts reacting to it. So when the Vishayas become sammukha, the objects of the world, when they become face to face to the mind, the chitta, then what happens to the chitta is called sambodham. So that is jagranam. So Sushupti has been explained, therefore there is Jagradam as well to be understood. If the dormant state of kleshas is there, then naturally awakeful state of kleshas is also there. So this has to be understood. So in mentioning sushupti or prasupti of kleshas, he also implies that there is jagranam of kleshas. So when four states are mentioned, the fifth state is implied. This is to be understood, and therefore Vyasa makes it clear. What is Sambodham? Sambodham is opposite of Prasupti. So, so when the kleshas are becoming operative, that is called Jagradam. When the kleshas are operative, such as kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam, attachment, aversion, when they are actually there, that is called sambodham. That is called the awakened state of kleshas or awakeful state of kleshas. So prasupti means it is potentially there. The kleshas are potentially there, and they are yet to come to actualization, and they would be getting actualized in a prospective time. So that's why it is called bija bhavam. Bija bhava means seed form. The kleshas are in seed form, and of course, if it is a seed, at some point in time there will be a sprout. So that is how prasupta kleshas are to be understood. As I said, that for a child, many of the tendencies are in a dormant state. And when assisting cause or manifesting cause appears, then the kleshas make a headway. So we do not see sensuality, etc., in a child. But when the child comes to age, when it reaches puberty and when adolescence comes up, then we see that certain mind aspects manifest. So that means if they were not there, they were in seed form. So that's how the bija avastha of asmita raga dvesha abhinivesha has to be understood. Then tanu karanam or tanu kruta kleshas. What are tanu kruta kleshas? What are attenuated kleshas? This is because of prasankhyanam. When the wisdom dawns, prasankhyanam dawns, then the kleshas are weakened. So, so kleshas won't really function even if there is a stimuli. Even if there is a stimulation, the kleshas won't really work. So, the kleshas, that means get weakened and weakened. Now this tanukaranam or tanutvam or attenuation is important to be heading towards prasankhyanam. That is exalted wisdom. So wisdom process would be launched only when kleshas are little weakened. Or when the wisdom dawns, the kleshas will be weakened, and when the kleshas are weakened, then only the path of yoga will be really commencing. Until that time, we are not really on the path of yoga. So after prasankhyanam, the kleshas will be dagdha bija. So burnt seed state of kleshas, which Vyasa explains in his course of commentary. So if the bijas are there, if the seed is there, the seed can be taken to burnt seed state. So once it is taken to burnt seed state, then there won't be any sprout any time. So that is called dagdha bija avastha. So in Kaivalya process, dagdha bija avastha comes up When Dagdha Bijavastha comes up, it implies that there is a Bijavastha. And that Bijavastha is Prasupti of Kleshas. So when the Dagdha Bijavastha comes up, that is burnt seed stage comes up, even if there is a stimulation for the kleshas to be triggered, it doesn't happen. Kleshas don't get triggered because they are taken to burnt seed stage. And this is well explained in the process of Kaivalya, that the kleshas are taken to burnt seed state. And therefore there won't be any sprout. If there won't be any sprout, that means there won't be actualization of kleshas. So that's how Vyasa explains the Bijavastha, and from Bijavastha he also draws in Dagdha Bijavastha, which happens in a spiritual process on a very high hierarchy. Then there is Vichinnavastha, spoken of by Patanjali. That means these are the manifestation of kleshas which come and go, appear and disappear, arrive and depart. So this often happens that the kleshas come and kleshas go. In the sense, manifestations of kleshas come and manifestations of kleshas go away. So there's always a alternation taking place in our mind. If we look at our own chitta, there is alternation taking place between attachment and aversion, between anger and love, between love and loath. So there will be alternation taking place. So they appear in their own form, carry out their function, and after a while they go away. And then again after a while they come back. So there is an alternation taking place, this coming and going, appearing and disappearing, manifesting and demanifesting. This continues, cyclically it continues. So that is called Vichinnavastha. That is called alternated state. So this is the state of kleshas which is there in we commoners. Sometimes we are godly, saintly, and sometimes we are brutally. So good tendencies surface, bad tendencies surface. Good tendencies are replaced by bad tendencies are replaced by good tendencies. Virtuosity is replaced by viciousness is replaced by virtuosity. So this kind of wheel or cyclic movement is there in our chitta, of being good and being bad. So the alternation can be seen very much. That sometimes we are temperate and sedate, and sometimes we are crazy and cranky, voluptuous. So this alternation which we see in our mind is because of vichinna kleshas. So when there is ragodbhava, there won't be dveshodbhava. So when the raga is on surface, the dvesha will be in latency. And when the klesha appears, the raga will go to latency. So this is how the appearance and disappearance goes on continuing. So the udaravastha of the kleshas means actualized state. Like when we are angry, or when we are in affectionate or love or reverence. So the different vasanas, tendencies, samskars, when they are on surface, there is a manifestation of corresponding chitta vritti or chitta bhumi or chittavastha. So that's why the uttara kleshas, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha are said to be of this kind, either in seed state or maybe at some stage burnt seed state in case of a yogi. So the bija avastha, sushupta avastha, dormant state, and then tanu, that means enfeebled state, like by our satsanga, by our sadhana sangha, shastra sangha, when there is a change in our character, the personality becomes mellowed, more and more mellowed, and then more and more matured, and then the reactivity consciousness is set aside. We don't react uh, like a like wisdom dawning. When the wisdom dawns, we have a different conduct. So that is how the kleshas are weakened. Kleshas are weakened when we get reformed in our consciousness. And that's reformation at later stages called tanutvam. That means the kleshas are weakened. That means they are weakened for all times, not temporary weakened condition, but permanently weakened condition, that is called attenuation. So when the kleshas are attenuated, they can be taken to burnt seed stage. So the kleshas are now in a burnt seed stage for all times. There would never be ever a sprout of any klesha vritti. So that is the tanutvam. And tanutvam is by prasankhyanam, and by prasankhyanam tanutva will be taking place. And then vichhinna we have seen, which is our state of mind. Sometimes we are good, sometimes we are bad, sometimes we are vicious, sometimes we are virtuous, sometimes we are exasperating, sometimes we are very, very loving. So this alternation kind of thing. So that is vichhinna. And then udara means actual state of kleshas. A functional and operative state of kleshas. That is the surface condition, clinical condition of our chitta. So these are the kleshas. Now, of course, we have got to look into the nuances of aspita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, the definition and the implication and nuances and their function and their purpose, etc. But in this discussion of prasupta tanu vichhinna udara, it should be understood that our practice of yoga that we have in our times, which is fitness program and wellness program, this really doesn't work on klesha. This should be borne in mind, because this is very cosmetic practice. Doing some asanas, doing some kriyas, and doing some mudras, and doing some shwasayamas, and doing some meditation kind of thing. So the yoga that we know today, this yoga is not going to work on kleshas. It is very, very cosmetic treatment to our mind. To be working on kleshas, as you should recall, we discussed that it is kriya yoga and the sadhana of kriya yoga in the form of jnana yoga sadhana, karma yoga sadhana, dhyana yoga sadhana, bhakti yoga sadhana, the jnana yoga culture, karma yoga culture, dhyana yoga culture, the bhakti yoga culture, the jnana yoga ethos, karma yoga ethos, dhyana yoga ethos, and bhakti yoga ethos. This is the one which is going to work for klesha management. The yoga that we know today, which is called yoga, will not be really working for klesha management. Remote chances of it working on klesha is almost nil. So Vachaspati Mishra makes it clear that you cannot be countering kleshas by your practices of what you call as neo-adhyatma sadhana. It needs a higher potency of practices, which, as I just now told you, these are Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, ethos, practices, culture, sadhanas, etc. And Vachaspati Mishra has made it clear. He says avidya is countered by samyak jnanam, which is the subject matter of Jnana Yoga. Asmita is countered by Vivek Jnanam. So avidya by Samyak Jnanam and Asmita by Viveka Jnanam, and that Atmanatma Viveka. And that comes better by and best by Karma Yogic ethos, Karma Yogic principles. Then Raga Dvesha is countered by Tatastha Vritti. The Madhyastha Vritti, Tatastha Vritti, or neutrality of the Chitta. So practices which give neutral condition to the mind, psyche, consciousness and the whole of Chitta, those are the ones which counter the Raga Dvesha. That is Dhyana Yogic ethos, Dhyana Yogic philosophy, Dhyana Yogic culture, Dhyana Yogic gravities and influences. And Abhinivesha is countered by giving up ahamtva, mamatva. And this is best surrendered in Bhakti Yoga culture, Bhakti Yoga philosophy, Bhakti Yoga ethos. This has been made clear by Vachaspati Mishra, whereby it opens out that huge portal to understand Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti Yoga, which we did earlier briefly. So Kriya Yoga means a composite, a compound of Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti Yogas, Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti ethos, Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti sadhana. And that is how we were trying to characterize Kriya Yoga in earlier part. So Vachaspati Mishra, in the course of his commentary on the Sutra Prasuptatunu Vichhono Udaranam Asmitadi Kleshas, he makes it express. So the point that we need to clearly understand as to what are the Klesha Pratipaksha. The Klesha Pratipaksha is Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is the one which antagonizes Kleshas. The Kleshas are antagonized not by Ashtanga Yoga, but Kleshas are antagonized by Kriya Yoga. This should be understood. Ashtanga Yoga will work for Ashuddhikshaya, because the Kleshas create a lot of dirt in our mind and embodiment. In our mind, intelligence, ego, emotion, psyche, consciousness and even body. So Ashtanga Yoga works on the plane of Ashuddhikshaya, which is in the form of grosser dirt caused by Kleshas. And when Ashtanga Yoga goes on a higher rung of Kriya Yoga, it's not that Ashtanga Yoga is one kind of yoga and Kriya Yoga is another kind of yoga, or not that there are two kinds of sadhanas. So Ashtanga Yoga, when it heads towards proficiency to be getting Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. So Ashtanga Yoga, which is now including the realm of Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, that is Kriya Yoga. When Ashtanga Yoga sadhana is not including Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi or Antaranga sadhana, until that time it is not Kriya Yoga but merely Ashtanga Yoga. So Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi will come psychologically. On psychological mental plane there will be something that we might call as Dhyana sadhana. But that won't really counter Kleshas. So when Ashtanga sadhana, although it is Ashtanga sadhana, usually for practitioners it is Panchanga sadhana, because the stages which are 6 and 7 and 8 limbs of yoga, limb number 6, limb number 7, limb number 8, namely Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, they are not really taking place on Chaitik plane. So actually our Ashtanga sadhana is Panchanga sadhana. We embrace the Panchanga sadhana, which is Yama Niyama Asana Pranayam Pratyahar. That is what it is possible for us. But when it really becomes Ashtanga sadhana, equally including Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, then it becomes Kriya Yoga. So this should be understood. And there we should understand that for Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, or what is called as Antaranga Sadhana by Patanjali, because Patanjali also is making a distinction between Bahiranga of yoga and Antaranga of yoga. So when the Antaranga of yoga comes in Ashtanga yoga, then it becomes Kriya yoga. As long as Antaranga is not coming significantly, or it is just coming titularly or nominally on psychomental plane, then it is not Kriya yoga. So at this stage we should understand this, that Ashtanga and Kriya yoga are not two sadhana pranalis, are not two types of sadhanas mentioned by Patanjali. And there we should understand our so-called Ashtanga sadhana. When we say I am doing Ashtanga yoga, where are the Ashtanga? Where can you count 8? You can't count 8 there. And still you call it. Okay, so there is nothing wrong in calling it Ashtanga sadhana, although something is not included, because it is a process. One by one limb will be coming up. And therefore there are 3 limbs yet to come in, so it doesn't matter. You can call it Ashtanga yoga, but you should know how much it is not Ashtanga and how much it is Panchanga. So the point is, the kleshas are countered by Kriya yoga. Kriya yoga means Jnana Dhyana Karma Bhakti yoga. The philosophy of Jnana Dhyana Karma Bhakti, the ethos of Jnana Dhyana Karma Bhakti, and the sadhana of Jnana Dhyana Karma Bhakti. So that is going to really be countering Kriya yoga. So the klesha pratipaksha is Kriya yoga. That is how we have to understand Kriya yoga. When the klesha management has commenced, and not just Shadripu management, but klesha management, then it becomes Kriya yoga. As long as there is only Shadripu management and we are still trying to battle with the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsaryam, the Shadripus, it is not Kriya yoga. So now we are going to understand the Kriya yoga as klesha pratipaksha. Now, with reference to you and me, the mundane people, the common people, the worldly people, howsoever we might be, not materialistic but spiritualistic people, yet the kleshas are rampantly there in us. And these kleshas are not really klishta for us. They are not really afflictions for us. They do not afflict us. But we get very, very, very sweet, enticing fruits to our kleshas. The kleshas are bearing out very, very sweet fruits for you and me. And so also they are bearing out Shadripus. The Shadripus get generated from the klesha phala. Klesha phala that we are countering. On one hand, we will be getting our delights and joys and pleasures and ecstasies in worldly matters. So those are sweet fruits of kleshas. If we don't have kleshas, we will not be getting those sweet fruits for which we have hankering: name, fame, money, recognition, and sensory gratifications, psychomental gratifications, emotional gratifications. So all this will not be available to us. And understand how the life will be miserable if we do not have mind gratification, intellect gratification, ego gratification, emotion gratification, physical gratification, sensory gratification. Our life would be miserable. So that is why I said the kleshas are bearing out very, very sweet and delicious fruits, very, very bewitching fruits for us. And they are not only bewitching, but without those fruits, our life will be miserable. But apart from that, they also engender kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam. And actually, we are infested by Shadripus. And because of Shadripus, we are getting happiness, etc. We have kama, we have passion and lust and desire. And when the passion, lust, desire is fulfilled, we know we have heavenly satisfaction and joy and bliss. So also krodha. Many times we justify our anger, and because of our anger, we get what we want. So when you get what you want, you have happiness and delight. So the krodha can also help you get what you want. People will be giving you that because of your anger. They cannot tolerate and withstand your anger, or perhaps they will part with what you want to partake. So you will again get the gratification because of your anger. Similarly, lobha, when you have greed, you will go after those things and you will try to grab those things. So you will get your gratification. Moha will also draw you towards certain objects for which you have infatuation and delusion, and you will somehow grab those and you will get your gratification. Matsar similarly gives you a gratification. So some kind of gratification is arrived at by kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam. So that is why we are clinging on to that. If they never had any positive effect, we would not have been clinging to those. Why are we clinging to Shadripus? Because we have some sweet fruits out of them, some gratifications out of them. We get some satisfaction out of these Shadripus. That is why we are embracing. So, the Shadripus, which are Klesha Vrittis, they are infesting our embodiment. We are infested by them. But when little wisdom dawns, when you have little philosophical wisdom, then you start giving importance to Satsanga, Sattva Sangha, Santa Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Satya Sangha, Sadhana Sangha, that is Kaya, Vacha, Manasa Sadhana, Yoga Sadhana, and then Shastra Sangha, the Santa Gatha Sangha, Satvik Ahar, Vihar, Achar, Vichar, etc. So when the wisdom dawns, then we start understanding importance of these principles which I have often sounded. Principle of Yajna Dana Tapa, then Sangatraya, and then Ahar Viharadi Chatushyam. So we slowly embark upon those practices, and that's how the klesha management in subtle form starts getting commenced. So we start heading towards Paramartha, Adhyatma Dharma, Adhyatma Jnana, and we proceed towards Adhyatmic Sadhana, which is Jnana Sadhana, Dhyana Sadhana, Karma Sadhana, Bhakti Sadhana. So we embark upon Shravanam, Vachanam, Pathanam, Pathanam, Mananam, Chintanam, etc. So spiritual pursuit entails this, that there is Shravanam, Mananam, Pathanam, Pathanam, Vachanam. So we start reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Mahabharatam, Srimad Ramayanam. Start reading Santa Gatha, Srimad Jnaneshwari, Tukaram Gatha, Ramdas Swami's Das Bodh, Tulsi Ramayanam. So we start reading these texts which have eternal values. And then we have Mananam Chintanam, we have a thought process over the matters of those texts. So that's how it commences. And that's how we start also trading on the path, what is called as Karma Marga, Jnana Marga, Dhyana Marga, and Bhakti Marga. So we enter these paths of Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti Marga. So this should be understood here, that there is a reference to Marga. Marga means path. Path of Jnana, path of Karma, path of Dhyana, path of Bhakti. So when we sufficiently go in the path, and when we attain some qualification and deservations and empowerments, then what would commence is the alphabets of Jnana Yoga, alphabets of Karma Yoga, alphabets of Bhakti Yoga, alphabets of Dhyana Yoga. And then when we are quite proficient in Adhyatma, quite drenched in Adhyatmic ethos, then Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti Yoga would be commencing. So there is something that should be understood here, that there is Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti Marga, Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti Sadhana, Jnana, Dhyana, Karma, Bhakti Yoga. So Marga and then Sadhana and then Yoga. This is how the accomplishments are there. And it is then that the practices would really be countering kleshas. So they become what I am tempted to call as anti-kleshotics. So all that viveka starts dawning. Nitya, Nitya Viveka, Shuchi, Ashuchi Viveka. You should recall earlier it was Aviveka. When we were discussing kleshas, we were referring to these as Aviveka. Nitya, Nitya Aviveka, Shuchi, Ashuchi Aviveka, Sukha, Dukha Aviveka, Atma, Anatma Aviveka. So indiscriminations. And with this kind of adherence to Adhyatma, we start getting Viveka. So that is replaced by Nitya, Nitya Viveka, Shuchi, Ashuchi Viveka, Sukha, Dukha Viveka, Atma, Anatma Viveka. And that marks the beginning of Adhyatmic sadhana. When we start going for distinctions between Nitya, Nitya, Sat, Asat, Dharma, Adharma, when the Viveka starts coming, then there is some commencement in Adhyatma. So the wisdom starts dawning on us. And then we have revelations such as, I am not a mortal. I am Anadi, Ananta, Ajanma, Amara, Ajara, Aparinami, Avyakta, Avyaya, Akarta, Abhokta. What are these predicates here? I am Anadi. I am without beginning. I am timeless. I am beginningless. I am Ananta. I am timeless, that is endless. I am Ajanma. I am unborn. I am Amara. I am deathless. I am Ajara. I am decayless. I am Aparinami. I am immutable. I am Avyakta. I am nominal. I am not phenomenal, but I am nominal. Then avyaya. I am undiminishing. And then I am akarta. I am non-doer. I am abhokta. I am not endurer. So all these are metaphysical revelations which come after a certain amount of wisdom dawning. And it's not just knowledge and information about our metaphysical status, because many of us know it when we read Bhagavad Gita. Atma has been described, Upanishads. When we have read Upanishads have described, but we have mere information of it. We don't live in the ethos of that. We yet have to get the ethos of metaphysics, our metaphysical entity, or our metaphysical postulations of Shastras. We merely have information, but we conduct our life as if we are mortals, as if we are mutable, as if we are born, death, also subjected to death, etc. So we think that the birth and death is all reality. That's how we conduct our life. So until that time, it is not really the prasankhyanam, or what is called as intuitive mystic revelation. And when this such revelation is there, the sattva rajatama gunas lose the grounds to operate. They lose the motivation to operate. And that's how the spiritual path opens out for a yogi, because the Prakriti Natya, the drama of Prakriti, is now meaningless. Whereas we all have this Prakriti Natya, we are all on the stage performing Prakriti Natya, experiencing Prakriti Natya, enacting in Prakriti Natya. We have our ahamtva, mamatva. So we are enacting a role of being something and someone to someone, and someone to us related. So the whole drama. Life is a drama. We are enacting roles of being fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and wives and husbands and friends and foes and so the bosses and the subservients, etc. All drama. Then there is some part of drama which is inevitable, inescapable, such as having a body, we have thirst and hunger. No, that's not a drama. So there are certain which are realistic virtual realities, that we have hunger and thirst, sukha and dukkha, karma bhoga, janma mrityu jara vyadhi. So these are all realities for us. So this, for a wise man, it is all drama. So he knows, yogi knows that he is shuddha, mukta, nitya mukta. Shuddha buddha nitya mukta is what a yogi knows about himself. Anyway, the point is the kleshas are attenuated by these anti-kleshotics, which are karma, dhyana, jnana, bhakti, yoga. And of course, we have considered those yogas in brief. And the klesha management takes place by that. So this is how we have to understand the basic avidya, on account of which we get the manifestation and we get the life as some being, and in our case as human beings. And then being human beings, we are related to so many things in so many ways, and we have to play so many acts, enact so many roles in our life, being father and mother and son and daughter and sister and brother and wife and husband and friend and foe and uncles and cousins and aunties and nieces and whatnot. So that's how the kleshas are giving us this virtual reality kind of life in metaphysical perspective. So that's how avidya works throughout our life. Throughout our life. Merely having a body means avidya has launched, because the baby doesn't have, infant doesn't have this psychosis. It's an innocent child, we say, but the body is there. When the body is there, there is a hunger and thirst. When the body is there, it has life and death. When the body is there, it has life, decay, disease, death, etc. So that's how the avidya doesn't really leave us. Whereas the asmita adi kleshas are having the stages. It is time now that we proceed to understand asmita. But that will be next time. Namaskar, all of you.